Hey folks, David Stewart here. Hope you guys are having a great day. More bored, but more entertained. That's the thesis of this particular video. Or if I'm going to be more specific, bored more frequently, but when we were entertained, we were more entertained. And I'm talking about how things were in the past. So I want you to take a little trip back in time with me, back to the grand old year of 2005. So let's go back in time 20 years. I was a young adult at that point. Maybe you were a kid. Maybe you weren't born yet. And if you weren't born yet, that's cool. Just take a little trip back in time and you'll get a flavor of what life was like, because modern life was here, but it was missing some things that we have today. The big one, of course, is smartphones. But not just smartphones, but what smartphones connect us to, and the reduction of friction between us and what smartphones connect us to, which is mainly social media. Things like Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, things like that. So when we were going to use the internet, we had to go home and turn on a computer. Or if we were really hip, we might have a laptop and you might be able to connect to the university Wi-Fi. And I knew people that had their laptops out and were taking notes in class, and that was very cool. But we had all the same stuff. We had cars, we had the internet, we had massively multiplayer online role-playing games. And actually, those are a really good example, I think, if you want to take the difference between 2005 and 2025. We had entertainment. We had big blockbuster movies. We had great video games. So 2005 was a great year. It wasn't like we're going back to like 1975 where there's no VHS. You can't watch movies except at the theater or something like that. We had basically all the same stuff. You had digital music. Everything is the same, except we don't have phones and we don't have social media. So that actually changes a lot about who we are and how we experience entertainment. The fact is, your phone is a really good device. A smartphone is a really good device for a lot of things. It's a camera, it makes phone calls, it text messages people, it has a GPS. Its core functions are really good and really, really useful. We had phones. We could text on them. It just wasn't as fast, right? You'd had like a little number pad that you would have to text on. We could make calls. Instead of GPS, we would print out maps, right? So it was much less convenient than what a phone does. But the main thing is, we didn't have social media and we weren't connected. The only social media at the time was like MySpace, right? But that resulted in us just being more bored. Like the day was more full of boring moments. Whereas the phone now allows you to fill in every little void of your day with some form of entertainment. There's entertainment just waiting at your fingertips. If you need to have a minute of entertainment, you can do a minute of entertainment. You can watch a TikTok video. You can play a little mobile game for 2 or 3 minutes. We can fill our entire day up with this sort of, people call it brain rot now, but this kind of micro entertainment that is really interesting, or interesting enough to get rid of boredom for a little while. You're standing in line for food. What do? You whip out your phone and you look at some Twitter posts or something. That's what I tend to do. You go to the bathroom, you whip your phone out, you play a game, you play a potty game, whatever you're going to play. And that makes us feel less bored throughout the day. But I think it makes us less able to go deep on the entertainment that we would actually like to. So those of us who remember 2005, games were better in 2005 for a lot of reasons. But one of the reasons that games were better in 2005 is that we were better. Like, we were better at games, and we had a better relationship with games. We had a healthier relationship with games. And that, I think, reflexively has affected game design as time has gone on as well. I can't think of a better example, actually, than World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft was around in 2005. In fact, I think the best version of the game, even today, if you were to play it today, is the version from 2005. It's the classic version of the game. So if you're playing the classic, no expansions, patch 1.12, that's like the best version of the game to pick up and play if you've never played the game before. I still believe that, having played all the different versions of retail and played classic and gone back to classic. But if you were playing it in 2005, it would be so much better than it is today, because there weren't smartphones, because the internet wasn't as as easy to get a hold of because there wasn't social media, because there was no streaming. None of that stuff existed. Someone might use Fraps to like record some footage and edit it with, Windows Movie Maker and put it up, not on YouTube, because people didn't even know what YouTube was even after it launched. It took a while for us to even know what YouTube was. Put it on like a file sharing site, and then you could download it. You could know about it on your guild forums and download it. It was all very primitive, but the game was there. And it was better because everybody playing the game was different than they are today. You got a much deeper experience, and you arranged your time, you arranged your mindset in order to allow yourself to have that deeper experience. Vanilla WoW was a lot slower than retail WoW is, or any modern MMO. You could compare this to Final Fantasy XIV or anything that you want, right? Elder Scrolls Online or Black Desert or any kind of new game that you want to think of that's like a massively multiplayer kind of game, Fortnite or something, right? It's way slower, but we could compare it to the retail version. It's way slower. So you walk out, you decide you're going to kill a monster, you start using your attacks. You're going to auto attack a lot because you have limited resources, whether it's rage or mana or something. You have to manage that. And so after you kill the monster, you usually have to sit down and eat or drink to refill your mana and your health. Pull another monster. If you pull two monsters, you're going to have a really hard time. And if you pull multiple mobs, or you walk through and you pull 3 mobs, you'll die, right? So it's this really a game where the world is really dangerous, and you have to be very careful about everything that you're killing and managing the world, and knowing to have food in your bags and stuff like that. So the game is a lot slower. It takes a lot longer to kill things. There was no flying mounts, so you had to walk everywhere. Even getting an epic mount cost 1,000 gold, which was a lot of gold back then, and most people couldn't get their epic mount because they didn't play enough. They didn't go and grind enough with the game in order to get 1,000 gold. So the game was a lot slower, but it was a much deeper experience because while you're pulling those mobs, while you're having to think about the world, it's a lot compared to the new version. There's just a lot more going on because the new version, you can really just face roll through the leveling content and just be mentally dead and pull 30 mobs at a time and kill them. You feel very powerful. It feels stimulating because you're pressing buttons very often. The game is set up now to where every single global cooldown, every like 1.5 seconds or whatever the global cooldown is, I've forgotten now, but you're pressing a button every single time, and that wasn't the case in vanilla. And in fact, if you did that, you would just you'd hear your character say over and over again, not enough rage, whatever it was. So it was a completely different kind of game to play in that regard. Now it's very stimulating, very fast. You feel very powerful. You're killing things. You're getting new items all the time. You were very rarely getting new items in vanilla. Even when you were leveling up, it's like occasionally a green would drop and it would be random enchantment, probably something bad that you didn't need. And so you might disenchant it or sell it to someone or give it to your friend or something. And now, you're always getting better gear, and the gear is completely leveled out. Right, so like, oh, I got a green. Oh, it's like of the whale, which is like spirit and strength or something. I don't know. You're like, oh, this is so bad. But now you don't have to worry about any of that. It's like higher item level tells you the item level now equals better. So if it's higher item level, you just put it on. You just don't have to think. So the game is just constantly stimulating you the way that your phone does. So modern WoW is competing with your phone. So it's got to be hyperactive. Classic WoW was competing with doing the dishes. So it didn't have to be as stimulating. It could be slower, but it was also deeper because while you're doing that, while you're having to do a lot of thinking about how you're going to manage your time in the game, you're also admiring the scenery. You're chatting with your friends, right? While you're sitting there drinking, you're typing in guild chat, they're typing back, you're having all of these conversations. It's more social as a result because there's more of that downtime, those little moments of boredom. I can imagine a modern player being bored, like I have to stop and eat. What do I fill this time with? And pulling their phone out to like do something while their character's eating. And if you go back to EverQuest, it's like EverQuest had a lot more of that downtime. WoW's downtime was pretty small by comparison. But those older games like EverQuest and Dark Age of Camelot or stuff like that, it was a slower experience because it was about the depth of the world and the depth of the systems and a dangerous world and talking with your friends. And if you had a party of 5 people, then you could face roll through those mobs, but you had to spend time to organize those parties, to get those people together to go out and level and do the things that you wanted to do. You had to organize your own parties to go to dungeons and things like that. Versus the modern one, it's like, I want to do a dungeon. Press the button, it puts me in the queue, and boom, I'm in the dungeon. Same thing with Final Fantasy 14. It's like the auto queue system is it's just so stimulating. It's so quick. Everything's so fast. And when you talk about that these things made Classic better, people are like, are you trying to slow down the game? Like, it's a terrible idea to slow the game down. But as I think about that, one of the reasons that I stopped playing Classic WoW is I realized I just wasn't going to have the time to play it at the level that I wanted to play it at, which would be to like raid. I just wasn't going to have like 4 to 8 hours a week to commit to raiding. My life is too busy. I have too many obligations. I have children. I'm really glad that other people got to experience that. Really happy that other people got to maybe go back and experience the fun of a big raiding guild. Not quite like what it was in 2015 or 2005 because we're different people. But back in 2005, we really had more time. We had more time to play, and we had our schedules. We were better able to clear our schedules and just focus on something fun, whether that was going to be like practicing guitar or if it was going to be just something purely for fun, like playing World of Warcraft or I have a nostalgia for turning on the PS2 and that PS2 sound because that meant you were going to spend an hour or two playing a game. And now a lot of our gaming experiences, I saw like most kids are playing games on their phone or their tablet. They're these small bites, of fast food rather than like a good meal that develops and takes time to eat and appreciate, which is what games were before. The beauty of old consoles that weren't online, like the PS2, was that you got a distraction-free experience. When you turned on that console and you started playing, everything else was gone. There was no school, there was no work, right? None of that stuff. And in 2005, I was an adult. And so I know this wasn't just me being a high school kid, right? Like can have some nostalgia for the 90s, and I had this in my book, Afterglow Generation Y, which I don't have it right here, but you can check it out. I have a lot of nostalgic stories, and I think the first scene of the book is an aphorism of somebody going home on a hot day and playing like PlayStation, alone in a dark room with the air conditioner on. It's a hot day outside. Like, that's just this great experience because you were so bored in school. You had all of those gaps in school. To go home, your brain was really primed and ready to have a deep and really good entertainment experience rather than a bunch of like little pieces of brain rot, clip clop, TikTok stuff, right? You were ready to have that deep experience, to turn on the PlayStation and play Final Fantasy IX for 2 or 3 hours and put off doing the dishes, right? And we did that with World of Warcraft. Things started to change slowly over time, and eventually we now, I think, have lost the ability to have those same deep experiences. We don't schedule our life the same way. Our obligations follow us in through the front door. I used to work, in 2005 I was working, I worked several jobs in 2005. I taught it, I taught lessons. I was a music teacher. I think in 2005, I think that was my first year as like an elementary school music teacher. And then the next year, 2006, I was teaching at a couple of colleges. So I worked full time. I was gigging like multiple nights a week, sometimes 4 nights a week. I was really busy. I was practicing hours and hours every day. My life was really full, and yet I still had time for these deep gaming experiences. I still found time multiple nights a week to sit down and just play World of Warcraft for a couple of hours. Even just leveling an hour or two, I could just do that, and it was just a joy to be able to do that. It was such a joy to turn on a console and play a game. I remember when Twilight Princess came out around the time of the Wii, it was just such a joy to like turn it on and play a game and not be thinking about work. Like work wasn't following me in my pocket. I wasn't having to field emails, right? I got emails from students and stuff, but that was on the computer. It was in a totally different room. and no one expected you to answer your email or answer a message immediately. That the culture didn't expect you to be plugged in all the time. The way that they do now. So we had different expectations on us. We were better able to do that. I could watch movies. Now it's like, I'm not joking when I say it's really hard for me to find 2 hours to watch a movie, because I really rarely have a 2-hour block of time where I can just do a thing. Like, I would love to sit down and watch something like Lord of the Rings more often. And Lord of the Rings was a movie that came out in the early 2000s. Those movies came out, those were early 2000s movies, and they're some of the best movies that you can watch. We had the Star Wars prequels. We were really spoiled for like great blockbuster movies. But now it's like finding 2 hours to watch a movie is hard because I have so many other demands and so many little things like social media stuff. If I make a list, if I allow it, like social media, I can completely lose my day trying to do the social media game. Like, let me post on Twitter and try to get retweets and try to get that dopamine hit from people paying attention to me and maybe make a little money, right? Maybe promote my book or something. Whatever book I have coming out. King Leper's out. You should read it. It's great. You can lose 2 hours doing that. And then you're like, where'd the time go? Did I enjoy those 2 hours? So the question, and I should have started with this question. I think when I wrote this article about it, I started with the question. If you remember 2005, were you more or less bored? And were you more or less entertained? It seems like those things can't go together, but we were more bored, but we were also a lot more entertained because we were able to experience that entertainment at a deeper level and be more attentive to it and let it really be an experience that overwhelmed us. How many times in today, 2025, are you watching a good movie, a movie that you know is good, and you feel the temptation to check your phone? I know I feel it. I'm like, I'll just see what's going on Twitter. I'll just see how that tweet's doing, that hit tweet. Maybe it got some more reposts. Maybe I got some cool responses. I'll see how that video's doing. Do you feel it? I mean, I feel it. And partly because social media is part of my business, I'm particularly susceptible to it. And so I said this in another video. One of the things I did when I got back from my trip was I just did Twitter on an alt. And that got rid of all the need to post because no one's watching. No one cares that I'm posting on the poo-poo post alt, right? No one cares on the Bantha fodder. It's like at poo-poo post or whatever. So, right, no one cares that I'm posting on that account. No one's watching. No one's retweeting. No one gives a crap. So that eliminates the feeling of like, maybe if I post this, I'll get attention. It just gets rid of that. And what I want to do going forward is I want to train myself to use my phone in much more appropriate and intentional ways. And that means subjecting myself more to boredom, right? To those little moments of boredom that come up in a day and finding better ways to fill those in. I've gone over this before. Like, I found lots of ways to fill in those moments in 2005 that were only slightly less efficient than 2025, right? I had a DS. I could pull up my DS if I had 10 minutes, like between classes or something, and just hop right into a game and play for 5 or 10 minutes and then close it up and pull it back up, So you could get a Nintendo DS and they're better games than what you have on your mobile phone. You could get a PS Vita for pretty cheap, a lot less than a phone, and the games are better. You could get a 3DS. The games are better, okay? Even though they're old now, 2012 or whatever for the PS Vita. I don't remember when the 3DS came out, maybe 2011. These are old games. But old games that are complete. They're just better experiences. They're deeper experiences, and you can still have a bite-sized yet deeper experience with that. So I think back on that as like, yeah, the gaming experience is better. I loved handheld gaming because I was so busy, but I still got to do have all of these experiences that were great. I carried books around and I read books, and that's something you can do with your phone. You can read a Kindle book, right? You can buy one of my books and read it on your phone. There's lots of ways that you can fill in that time with things that aren't social media that make you feel like at the end of the day, I wasn't bored, but was I entertained? Do I feel good about what I saw or did? Right? I almost never feel that. But when I stop and I like watch a movie with my son, even half a movie, if we only have an hour, I feel so much better about that time, and I pick up so much more, and I enjoy it so much more. And it's just so much better. I would much rather sit down and play a console game with my son for an hour than like look at Twitter. But the tendency is to look at Twitter because there's no friction to that. Like, we have to figure out ways to put friction in our phone. Delete the app off your phone. That's an easy way, right? Have your screen time widget on your phone to remind you. Don't be looking at your phone. Yeah, you might need your phone for GPS. Another thing is take your phone, and I've done this before, take the phone out of the pocket, put it in another place, and you have, like, I have a smartwatch, and so if someone texts me, it pops up on the smartwatch. So I'm not disconnected. If someone calls me, I can take the call. But I won't get there. I'm a little bored waiting for the kids to do a task, like they're cutting out paper or something. I could check Twitter. Like, I wonder if I thought of a joke I could post. Like, no one's listening. I don't need to do that. I don't need to get the phone out. So anyway, that's my whole thing. Think about 2005. Were you more entertained, but more bored as well? I think I was, for sure. And I think that goes a lot to why I think gaming really peaked in around 2007, because we were still having these deep and good experiences with games. They're not gone, right? There's still great games that come out that give you deep experiences. Baldur's Gate was one, Expedition 33 was one. These were good games that I think gave people a really much deeper experience, like what they felt like a game should be, rather than like a mobile game, right? Most of our console games are actually pretty deep experiences by comparison, but there's all kinds of weird little time-wasting, shallow things that get stuck into our games, little Ubisoft towers and that kind of stuff, which that's a whole nother video to talk about that stuff. Those experiences are still out there, but we have to be the people that are able to fully get the most out of those, and also we have to be the people that can get the most out of those by scheduling time to do them. It's really easy to just burden yourself with 1,000 little tasks and never do anything that's fun or engaging, and kind of rely on the few minutes of anti-boredom content instead of really deep, like reading a book, like good entertainment. Okay. So anyway, leave me your thoughts down below. I'd love to read them. Just as a heads up, a little bit of housekeeping. The Discord server is going away. For the reasons that I talked about, is that when I'm on my computer, I'm rarely on my computer now because I'm way more focused on my children. So I'm usually away from my computer, which was a way that I was limiting my ability to access certain kinds of media. Like, I can get really overwhelmed with Discord notifications. So like my notifications are off and I would just check in on my computer. I'm just not able to give any value with my Discord server. I'm not able to be on there and interact with people as much as I want to. And I would rather just talk to people in the comment section. That's more fun to me. So I'm going to get rid of the Discord server because I don't feel like it's delivering people the value that they deserve. And you can still support me on Patreon. You can still get the free books. Okay. And you'll still get copies of live rights or any live music. There's copies of the ambient music that you can listen to. So that kind of stuff will still be free on Patreon for you guys. So that's it. I appreciate it. King Leper is out. Find a link down below. If you read it and enjoyed it, please do leave a review because it helps me out long term to sell the book on Amazon. And I will see you all next time. Have a great day.